I think that there is one single skill that you will never, ever, ever regret having worked on, having developed, having spent your time on. And that skill is your consciousness. Now, why is that the case? Because most people don't even know what consciousness means. Why is it the case that it is so important? I think that the answer is quite obvious. And it is very simply because we go around pretty much all day long in kind of like a zombie sleepy modus, right? I've personally seen that I used to go around in that zombie modus pretty much all day long. Like we are most of the times asleep. We are awake, like we have our eyes open, but most people, including me very often, and probably you and everyone else around you, we go around in kind of like a sleeping state. We do what we have to do, we tick off our tasks, we do mechanically the things that we want to do and that we have to do, but we don't really realize it. We are not conscious, we don't feel the moment, and therefore end up wasting it. Let me tell you that very personally, I've seen that my life changed so much under my own eyes as I became more conscious. Very simply because when we are unconscious, when we do things mechanically, we are kind of like animals. Things happen to us, life happens, and we just react to things. And we don't even feel it. We just act without feeling it. It's kind of like in a dream. You can dream in kind of like a not conscious way, like the dream happens to you, and that is what happens to most people in their life. Or you can enter in kind of like a lucid dream where you actually act, where you are actually conscious, right? The same thing goes with day-to-day life, right? In the real world, when we are awake, right? For most of us, we just do things without even realizing what we are doing. We are eating while thinking about other things. We are eating while scrolling on TikTok. We are like at school without even realizing why we are there, without even feeling the moment, right? We are working, studying, in the gym without being conscious. We're not feeling the moment. And I think that this is one of the most stupid things that we are doing, very simply because when we are not conscious, we are not feeling the moment. We're not even realizing that we are alive. We're not even realizing that we exist. We're not realizing what we're doing. And I think that Kobe Bryant said this very well when he said that it's not about the outcome, it's about the journey, right? We all think about achieving our goals and mechanically actually end up doing it, right? Because life happens, but unconsciously we end up acting and getting closer to our goals without ever feeling the process, the moment, without ever being conscious. That is why I think consciousness is so important, because even if you achieve whatever you want to achieve and you didn't feel it, you will end up regretting it inevitably. I think that I don't want to end up getting at the end of my life thinking to myself, yeah, I have achieved everything I wanted, but I didn't really savor it. I didn't really ever stop feeling the moment, ever stop realizing it, ever stop being present. I was just there mechanically in this do sleepy mode, like zombie mode, doing things, thinking about everything except the present moment. Now, how do we become more conscious? The first step that I had to go through to become more conscious was to realize what consciousness actually meant. Because for most of us, we don't really understand what consciousness means. It's like such an abstract term, right? It seems like a cloud. We don't really understand its form, right? And it's actually not something, or at least that is what I've seen on myself, that has to be understood. It's something that has to be felt, right? Consciousness is a feeling, kind of like it's a state. And you will 100% know that you felt it, that you were conscious when you actually are going to feel it. So the closest that I can get to in words to being conscious is by saying that when you're conscious, or at least that is what I've seen on myself, I feel kind of like detached from my thoughts and from my body. I feel kind of like I kind of like remember that I exist. And by keeping remembering that I actually exist, that I am alive, I actually feel this strange feeling of detachment from my thoughts and from my body, from sensations. I actually feel like kind of like connected, but kind of like detached. I don't know how to describe it more detail than that. But if you try to feel it, if you try to not try to understand it, try to feel it. If you practice one day, 100%, I will assure you that you will feel it. And that is such an amazing feeling. Like literally, as soon as you unlock that, we get to step number 2, which is a very unsexy answer, I know, which is to practice. Most people have probably told you that to become more conscious and more present, you just have to meditate, 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 meditate. And that is actually kind of true. But most people don't know how to meditate because they focus on what to do, right? Meditation actually only works if we know what consciousness actually feels like. And then it's just about just trying to be as conscious as you can. You know that feeling that you felt before? Just try to stay in that feeling as much as you can. That is literally how it works. And every single time when you can throughout the day, try to remember to wake up, to remember that you are alive, remember that you're existing. And I've seen that a few tricks have actually worked really well for me. One thing that I really like doing is to write it down on my phone, on my home screen of my phone. I just write wake up, right? And every single time I see that, I wake up. Another thing I do is I have a to-do list, kind of like it's right there. And there I write basically wake up or stay present or am I awake, something like that. And underneath I wrote a number, for example, 25 or 30. So 25 times throughout the day, I have to read that with consciousness and then like go one number below that. So the first time I will read it, I will go down to 24, then 23, blah, 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 until I get to 0. So throughout the whole day, another thing that actually works is setting alarm clocks where you just remind yourself, wake up. So throughout the day, you will be remembered by yourself and by all these helps to wake up at least 20, 30, 40 times. And that is actually an amazing thing. The more you practice through meditation, by sitting still and just trying to remember, continuously remember, while you focus on your breath, for example, that you exist, detached from your thoughts, detached from your body. At least that is what I've seen that has really worked for me. Then try to remember it as often as I can throughout the day. And another thing that's actually another trick is to use positive reinforcement. I see that if I tell myself every single time that I wake up, oh, I'm becoming much more aware, I'm becoming more conscious, I'm waking up much more often, right? I know it sounds stupid, but if I tell myself that, I see that actually it does help and I actually become more conscious over the long term much faster. So these were the few tricks to become more conscious. It's actually kind of simple and straightforward, just about understanding what feeling conscious actually feels like. Then practice throughout the whole day. Use those tricks that I said to wake up and use positive reinforcement. Now, if you follow these 4 steps, you will inevitably become more conscious. If you don't, you will have just wasted, 5-10 minutes of your time watching this video, but I don't want you to do that because I really hope that this video helped you out, and it will only help you out if you actually implement it. Now, if you want to better understand how to meditate, I highly recommend you to go and check out this video that I made this Tuesday. Yes, think Tuesday. Because it will explain you a big mistake that most people do when it comes to meditating, which is actually a good practice to become more conscious. Now, wish you all the best and see you there.